Fake HOA destroyed my door, but I just sold it to Homeland Security. My name's Jerome Willis. I'm a third-generation farmer in Red Cedar Hollow, the kind of town where people still wave at each other from porches. My barn's been standing since 1938, rebuilt twice and repainted more times than I can count. Lately, I haven't used it for livestock. These days, it's storage and, well, a bit of a secret. I never thought it'd be the center of a federal investigation, or that a group of nosy, power-drunk suburbanites would be the ones who triggered it. It started with a knock scratch that had started with a pamphlet, a glossy printout tucked under my gate latch, labeled Red Cedar Property Integrity Patrol. Looked official enough, but something about it felt off. No town seal, no contact number, just a list of what they called violations and a warning about barn structure noncompliance. My barn, the same barn that had stood longer than this entire HOA-style housing tract, 2 roads down. At first I laughed, figured it was some new neighborhood initiative trying to flex over aesthetics, but the next week things escalated. 3 people, Karen Adams, her husband Brent, and some guy named Doug in mirrored sunglasses walked straight onto my land in matching black windbreakers labeled RCPIP enforcement. They didn't knock. They didn't call. They went for the barn. I watched from my kitchen window, steaming coffee in hand, as Doug and Brent forced the side door open with a crowbar. I heard the snap of wood before I registered what was happening. "Hey," I yelled, storming out. "This is private property." Karen turned like she was in a courtroom. "Not someone else's yard. Sir, this structure has been marked for potential code violations and safety concerns under the community mandate." "What community?" I cut her off. "This isn't part of any HOA. You're within visible range of the Red Cedar Estate expansion zone." She smirked like that gave her divine right. "Ma'am," I said, clenching my jaw, "I've owned this land since before your zip code even existed." What none of them knew not yet was that just 3 days prior, I'd finalized a deal. The barn was no longer mine. I'd sold it, and the 4-acre plot behind it to the Department of Homeland Security Quiet Contract Special Use Facility for a low-visibility surveillance project. I wasn't supposed to talk about it, but this wasn't just trespass. It was sabotage. Karen and her crew had damaged federal property. The door was busted off the hinge. Inside rows of carefully secured crates, sealed unmarked, now sat exposed to sunlight and dirt. One crate had popped open from the shock-revealing equipment I didn't recognize. I stepped in and took a photo. Then I made a call, not to the cops, to the number on the bottom of my contract. By the time Homeland Security agents arrived, SUVs, unmarked faces, unreadable. Karen was still pacing the gravel, lecturing Doug about declining rural standards. When the first agent flashed a badge and asked for identification, her face went white. "What is this?" she stammered. "You've just entered and vandalized a federal holding site," the agent said flatly. Doug tried to backpedal. "We thought it was just a barn, some kind of community violation. Are you affiliated with any recognized law enforcement agency?" the agent asked. "No, we're neighborhood patrol," Karen croaked. "Fake patrol," I added. "Not recognized by the town council. Not legal." Brent tried to argue, claiming the property was an eyesore. That didn't matter. The agents took statements, collected footage from the motion sensor camera above the barn, one I'd installed just for this purpose, and detained all 3 of them, pending investigation. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The news did that for me. By sunset, footage of Karen's group breaking into the barn was all over local channels. A journalist from Channel 8 aired a segment called "Fake HOA Patrol Sparks Federal Response" in Red Cedar. It exploded online. Turns out Karen's self-appointed group had been harassing more than just me. They'd fined a retired Marine for having unapproved yard tools. They'd threatened a young couple for building a tiny greenhouse without community pre-clearance. And they'd sent notices printed from a home inkjet to people 2 towns over. Nobody had pushed back. Until now, my case triggered the town council to hold an emergency vote. All local law enforcement personnel, real and retired, came out to testify. The sheriff himself admitted he'd been annoyed with Karen's vigilante HOA nonsense, but lacked the legal means to stop it. The DHS contract changed that, because when you attack federal property, things escalate. The agents didn't just investigate Karen. They followed her paper trail, bank accounts, printing records, email chains. She'd been collecting voluntary HOA dues through Venmo. Over $12,000 supposedly for community fencing projects. Not a single fence had been built. The fallout was spectacular. Karen lost her real estate license. Brent's face ended up on posters impersonating security officials as a crime. Doug got a misdemeanor charge and a $5,000 fine. The fake HOA was officially dissolved. Their funds seized as for my barn. DHS sent contractors to repair it better than before. Reinforced doors, security sensors, cameras. I wasn't even told how to operate, and they paid me extra for the inconvenience. But what stuck with me wasn't the justice. It was the neighbors. People I'd never spoken to came by the next week. Some brought pie. Others just offered help. We repainted the barn walls together, planted trees along the fence line. It became more than land. It became a symbol of how small-town unity could win. We started a real community board, no fines, no uniforms. Just volunteers who checked in on elderly residents, cleaned up public lots, and yes, respected property lines. The story went viral, and one night, weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten from Karen. It wasn't an apology, it was a plea for what it's worth. She wrote, "I thought I was protecting the neighborhood. I folded it once, tossed it into the fire pit. Because when people destroy something real to uphold something fake, they don't need sympathy, they need boundaries, and fences, real ones work just fine." The end.